All right, well, we're going to kick it off. Thanks, everybody. This is CNJ REIG, Central New Jersey Real Estate Investors Group. I'm your host, Scott Forge, and it's my wife, Tabitha Forge, for those that don't know us.
Hi.
We host this meeting every month, last Wednesday of the month. And once we get back into live meetings, we'll also be doing the bi-monthly networking events. So we're looking forward to getting back in the swing of things. We're probably going to do that next year. This year, we're just keeping it Zoom for now, live Zoom calls. So before we get started, we just wanted to give a shout out to our vendors. We have A&A Debris Removal. They do clean outs, demo, debris removal. They have a 20-yard dump truck, not a dumpster. When they come and do a clean out, the fee to remove the garbage is included with them hauling it away, them doing the work. You don't have to do anything. They're registered, insured with the state. So they're a legitimate company. They also pay workers' comp to their employees. So they're covered that way. Demo is based on whatever work you need. And of course, debris is similar based on, they do the hauling. It's all included. No overages costs for any of the dumping. Whatever the truckload is what you pay for. Then we have, let me get this person in. Then we have Arcad Capital. It's our hard money lender. And they do everything from flips to refinancing to long-term holds to ground up construction to BRRRR for multifamilies, residential multifamilies, commercial multifamilies. They're full gamut. They're located in Plainfield, New Jersey. And not only are they lenders, but they're actually investors themselves. So they're still doing the work from wholesaling to ground up construction to landlording to flipping. So they do all of it. And they are our hard money lender. If you need them, you can reach out to us or look them up at arcadcapital.com. A&A Debris Removal, I think, is aadebrisremoval.com. And then third, we have Villa Homes, New Jersey, which is an REO brokerage for New Jersey. They strictly work with primarily REO properties, and the team we work with is Derek Logan. He's based out of Central Jersey. So if you're looking at a REO property, you can reach out to them. They'll step you through the process of obtaining and closing on a deal with you. They will also do regular properties that are on the market if you want to hire them to help you. But Derek has over 30 years of experience in REO properties from different aspects of it. He used to do clean outs and property preservations, and now he's just an agent with a team that services REO properties. So that's what we have as far as vendors right now. We haven't charged anybody for membership this year because it was, we started at the beginning of the year, but because we went virtual, we just felt that it wasn't, required to have anybody pay to come on to the Zoom call. So next year when we go live again, we'll look to get more vendors in. We'll retain those three, but we had a whole slew of vendors that we're going to bring in, services that we've used and other vendors that people use in the business that have already been vetted so that that you're getting quality people to work with and quality people for your team members. Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Can't hear you. You're muted.
I know. I was off on another screen and I didn't see it. What's going on, guys? I promise I won't jack your meeting this time, but I always like what you guys have to say.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I might jack your meeting if it's boring.
If it's boring, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Who's your speaker?
We have Gabe is on. I was supposed to have somebody else, but I don't know if he's on.
All right. Well, if you need me as a backup, I'll be here then.
Okay.
But if Gabe's boring, I'm hijacking it.
Gabe's pretty
good to
good.
know we've got some reserves.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Because,
if I go ahead and tear my ACL or something, we got a good backup quarterback.
There you go.
That's it.
Teamwork. Teamwork.
Hey, Hashim, did you get your silver?
Who got
Oh, Sal.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Sal, did you get your silver coin or silver?
Hashim,
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. And
Awesome,
I tried to go to Google, but I didn't know where's that link to leave my 2 cents in.
To move
Oh,
your what?
So I'll call the office and I'll ask them to guide me.
Oh,
how
to put
to,
put a 5-star review. We love 5-star reviews.
Right.
So-
Take
I
it, man.
couldn't find the link to go to that.
Okay, well, we'll get it for you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
they're
I
talking
appreciate it.
about Larry's event last month. Larry hijacked our call. We had a couple good speakers on it, and Larry hijacked and took over. And then the weekend following our call, he had a all-day event on Saturday, which Sal attended and won some silver. So,
Woo!
so
10 ounces. He
it
won
was a good
10
event.
ounces of silver.
Very informative with the speakers.
And it was
that-
worth more the day he won it than it was today.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you get back to your meeting. I'm sorry.
That's all
I'm
right.
doing my thing.
Listen, we'd love to have fun too.
Yeah, we enjoy.
So, but let's work hard.
All right.
Tonight we're having a meeting because last month during the call and since then I've had a lot of people reaching out to us, asking about what's going on, what we think, what we see in the market, where to find deals, how to find deals, because people are still struggling with finding deals. So I wanted to get Gabe on for a while, but every time I turned around, I seen him either speaking somewhere, and I know he's a real busy guy. And I just happened to connect with him this week and asked him to come on. Again, there was supposed to be another person on, but I haven't heard from him. But I know Gabe he started as a wholesaler. I know that. And I know he's doing some rehabbing now, but I know that Gabe is one of the premier wholesaling representatives out there in the state of New Jersey, because I get emails and text messages from him almost every day. Properties I may not like or in my area, but I know he's out there working it hard, and he's kind of killing it compared to everybody else out there. That's why I really wanted to get him on to talk to the people. And one of the things we want to talk about is being that he's so successful at what he does. I want to find out, and from his perspective, what he's seeing in the market and what he's doing to find these deals, and how he's following up with people and doing what he needs to do to be so successful at what it is that he's doing. And I don't know how to properly pronounce this group, so I call it the Morai Group, but that might be the wrong
You got it
pronunciation.
right. That's perfect.
Okay. So I want to introduce Gabe Palella. I don't know if I pronounced that wrong.
You didn't pronounce it right. That's Paolella.
Paolella. Okay, Paolella. From the Morai Group. I met him a couple years ago when he first started out, and I've just watched him grow into this crushing wholesaler, and now he's got a whole business behind him. So I'll let him give a brief introduction, better than what I did about him and his business right now. So go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, no, thanks for the introduction, Scott. Thanks for all the nice words. So yeah, my company, the Moirai Group, has been, in the northern and central New Jersey market for about 3 years now. Like Scott said, we started off primarily just doing wholesaling and lead gen. And, we've built our company to not only doing that, but also rehabbing a lot of the properties that we find, and doing that as well. So it's, it's a great business to be in. We've always been successful because we've from the very beginning, we've put a lot of time and effort and money as well into marketing and lead generation, and just finding those deeply discounted deals so that you can either wholesale them to another investor for a quick profit, or buy the deal and get a hard money loan, or use cash and rehab it yourself and resell it and make even more money. So that's our business. We have an office located in New Brunswick now, which is great. We're so blessed to be still working out of an office even during a pandemic. And we're just here to talk to you guys, I guess, about finding deals like the name suggests, and answer any questions that you guys may have, and hopefully help you guys out.
So what is your primary focus of marketing these days, considering what's going on with COVID?
You mean our primary source of marketing, like how we're doing marketing?
Yes.
So, I mean, we really haven't changed anything from when COVID started. I mean, the same sources of marketing that worked before still work now. Direct mail is time tested. It always works. SMS works. Cold calling works. Those are really the three big ones for us. There's others, but they get a little bit more complex when you get into social media marketing and SEO and all that crazy stuff where we're a little bit more old fashioned. But yeah, it's really not the type of marketing that you do, but it's how you do it and how your follow-up is, and just how you're tracking your key performance indicators is really what's going to determine your success more than whether you're texting or doing direct mail or whatever.
Right. So when you're sending out your mailings, like how do you source your leads? Is it do you buy lists, or do you have other ways that you pull in your source of leads?
So it highly depends. There's so many places where you can get leads, right? There's list providers like ListSource, and what's the other big one? PropStream that people use. I personally don't use those. You can pull tax records for free. You can actually get some lists directly from municipalities just by filling out an Oprah request. That's another way that you can do it. But that's primarily how I'm getting my lists. Now, it really depends on what type of marketing you're trying to do and how many people you're trying to send mail or texts to, right? Because there's two types of lists, right? There's a targeted list and there's an untargeted list. An untargeted list is like an equity list. That's just you're hitting anybody in whatever zip code you want that has more than 50% equity. That's an untargeted list because you're just blanket hitting everybody. That's what you're going to want to do if you're texting, because texting is very cheap. Now, if you're doing direct mail is expensive, right? You're spending 30 cents a postcard, so you can't mail as many people because the cost limits you. So you want to send more direct, more targeted marketing. So that would be like a tax delinquent list, right? Like if you're behind on your property taxes, it's a much smaller list than the people who have equity, but those people are going to be more motivated to sell. So you're going to get more deals from less people. So it really depends on what type of marketing you're doing, what type of list you want to send out, whether it's targeted or untargeted.
Right. So basically you could do like absentee owners, you could do
That's a good one.
tax foreclosures, people who are tax delinquent. You can do list pendants, people who are behind on their mortgage, like you said. There's a number of ways you can do it. I guess it all depends on what your priority is and where you want to focus your resources, your costs, your dollars. There's a slew of different ways to find, like Gabe said. So
how about when you first started? Just think back to then. And it's been a couple years. When you first started, how did you start? Like,
so when we first started, we did direct mail.
Okay.
And I would not recommend doing direct mail if you're starting, because it's far too expensive. Look, if you've got 10, 15 grand you want to play around with, great, do it. You'll get deals. But, if you really, want to start and you want your costs to be low, which most people who are starting do, you probably want to cold call. If you've got the time, maybe, maybe a lot of people are unemployed right now during the pandemic, or maybe if you are employed, maybe on a Saturday, you want to get a list, get a dialer and just start, pounding the phones. The next cheapest thing to do would be to do texting, because, it's very cheap to send, like through these text services, you can do a text for, a penny or even less than a penny. So, it's very, very cheap to do, and you're not going to spend a lot of money, as opposed to if you're doing mail or if you're doing like SEO or, any of those more expensive channels. So, I would just find a list, depending on what type of area you want to market to. I would first identify an area that will work for you. Depending on what strategy you want to do. If you're flipping, I would probably try to do more like middle or working class areas. If you're wholesaling, I would probably try to do more lower class areas. And do one of those cheaper methods of marketing and just start pounding away.
So here's my thing though, because I hate people texting me. Do you get a lot of leads from people from the text, or is it worth it? Because it's like, or is there more people like me out there like, oh.
You get those people who are angry, of course. But anything you do, there's going to be people who are angry. Like the postcards, we get people calling us who are very angry that we sent them a postcard. Or if you're cold calling, there's going to be people who are very angry that, a telemarketer is calling them, right? So, it kind of comes with the territory. If you're going to be doing lead gen, you definitely have to have thick skin. There's going to be people who are going to be angry that you're reaching out to them about, buying their property. There's going to be people who feel very attached to their, to their home, and they're going to be upset that you're, inquiring about purchasing it, no matter what type of marketing that you're doing. So I would just, keep a smile on your face and just, go on to the next guy, because, it's a volume business. So,
How do you
texting
develop
works for sure. Does it work? I would say that texting is actually the most cost-effective way to market.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I said, what's the most cost-effective way is probably
Mhm.
texting, because you can actually do like a text blast, right?
Mhm.
And text it out that way.
Yeah,
compared to
these
cold
texting
calling.
services, you get a list and then you'd skip trace the list. And that's the most expensive part if you're texting or cold calling, is just skip tracing, right? Because you got to get the people's numbers, and then you send it to one of the text services, and you just send them all the people's names and numbers, and they just text out everybody, and it's like a penny, or even in many cases less than a penny to send a text out, which is great because you can send the same person the same text once a month. Because when you're doing marketing, and you'll realize when you're doing follow-up, it's all about timing, right? It's all about giving them that cold call, sending them that mail, sending them that text whenever it is that this guy's thinking, shoot, I gotta sell this house. And that's why a lot of people, direct mail can be a rabbit hole, because it's so expensive. You're gonna spend 30 cents and you're gonna hit the guy once, and that's it. He got the postcard, great. But text, because it's so cheap, you spent all the money on the front end skip tracing it. So, it might have cost you 10 cents to skip trace a lead. But then once you have the lead, it costs you a penny to text him. And every time you text him, it costs a penny. So you can get a list, and you already spent all the money up front on the skip trace. And now every month you text them. So you're more likely to get them at the time when they're ready to sell, because you're hitting them every month instead of hitting them once, or hitting them every 6 months, or what people typically will do with direct mail.
Right. So you brought up a point there, is following up, basically. Now, when you follow up, you have to, you usually don't get your contract, and you usually don't get the call for somebody selling the home a lot of times on your first touch.
That's right.
How many touches do you usually do before you either drop it and say, okay, I'm not doing it anymore, I'm not going to text them anymore or call them? And how long of a span is that? Is that a weekly, a monthly? Like how often do you do that?
Sure. So, like now we're at the point where we actually have full-time acquisitions reps who are like salespeople who, they do lots of follow-up calls. But, if you're just like a one-man show, or if it's you and a partner or something, call them as much as you can. Get as many leads as you can and call them as many times as you can. We pretty much like follow up with people until they either tell us, yes, I'm selling, or, no, go F yourself.
Yeah.
You can't, like I'd rather lose a deal from calling him too many times than lose a deal from not calling him and then somebody else gets the deal instead.
So
you
I like
really can't do too much. There's no such thing as too much. And like the other thing that like I found really works, and this is a gem right here, is so like if the guy says, I'm going to sell, but call me in 2 months, or call me in a week, or call me in whatever, you take the time that he took, a month, and you cut it in half, and then you call him. So if he says, call me in a month, you call him in 2 weeks. If he says, call you in 6 months, call him in 3 months, because like it's a race to the finish, right? Whenever he's ready to go, whenever, whatever that thing that's going to happen happens, and, the person is there ready to make them an offer, and, is a serious guy, that's who's going to get the deal.
Gotcha.
So now, how about vetting these different call centers, or the texting places? Are any one of them good, or is there something you should watch out for?
So yeah, texting, like there's some texting services. Most of them are actually pretty good. Roar is a good one. Callfire is a good one. Apeiron is a good one. I could give you a list if you want to give them to people in the group of ones that like I have either used myself,
sure.
or I know are successful.
Yeah,
If it's a call center, I would typically just be asking them for like sample calls, because most of them are outsourced, right? It's going to be, you know, a cold calling team you know, we have one in the Philippines.
Right.
So it's, you know, people in the Philippines who, you know, are on these dialers and they make the calls, and they're essentially, you know, the only thing that they're doing is just vetting people, right? So they're just basically like, hey, you know, do you own this property and are you interested in selling it? And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, they're getting transferred to a person, you, or, you know, if you have an employee or your partner or whoever in the United States, in New Jersey, and then you are, you know, doing the rest. So you just want to make sure that they, you know, that they're reliable, that they, you know, speak relatively good English, and that, you know, they can follow a script. And, you know, it's really, the job is on you to make the script and to make the system for them as simple as possible, because, you know, you're right, that, you know, most of them are not very bright. They can't really hold very good conversations. So, you know, it's all about your script, right? So
Yeah.
when we do it with them, it's all about asking the sellers yes or no questions, because
Yeah.
for them, it's like, it's not complicated. Like, hi, is this the person that we think it is? It's either is or it isn't, right? It's hi, is this Scott? Yes, it's Scott, or no, it's Scott. Okay, great, Scott. Do you own the property at 123 Main Street? Yes or no? Yes, I do, or no, I don't? Yes, I do. Great. Okay, great. Would you potentially be interested in receiving a cash offer for that property? Yes or no? If the answer to those three questions are yes, they get transferred. If the answer to any one of those questions is no, then they don't get transferred. That's, you know, it's just about making it simple for them, because, you know, it is what it is. You know, you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah, so that was going to be my thing was, you don't want to make it too complicated, right? And you don't want to you also don't want to ask them too many questions either, right? Because then they lose focus. They get frustrated, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you know, and that's why I'm saying, you know, like for me, once you know that, you know, it's the person, you know, they own the property, and you know they're interested, then they're getting transferred to a person here. So I'm not having these VAs. They're not asking them what the address is. Well, I mean, they're asking them if they own the property, so I guess they are. But, you know, we're confirming the address. We're asking them, you know, how many bedrooms and bathrooms the house has. We're asking them, you know, about the condition of the property, and, you know, if there's a tenant or not, or, you know, all of those questions are getting asked. You know, the important things are getting asked by us. They're just basically weeding out all of the people that aren't the right person or that aren't interested. So then that way you're only talking to motivated sellers. So that's their purpose, is to make sure that you're only dealing with people who are serious and you're not wasting your time.
Yeah, that's key. You don't want to be spending a lot of time with people who aren't really motivated, because there's, right, especially right now, there's a lot of people out there. One, they need help, they have problems, and they just don't want to say anything. So when you're reaching out to them, you'll know right off the bat by asking specific questions that they're motivated. And then, so when they sell, how long does it take for them to transfer it to the next step where you're actually going to go after them and ask them questions? Is it like immediately, or is it like you get a turnaround of like the next day, put it on a calendar type?
You know, it really depends
platform?
on your individual business. You know, for us now, we have full-time employees. So, you know, we always have somebody who the call can get directly transferred to. But, you know, if it's going to you and you're the business owner and you're, you know, wearing all of the hats, you know, that may not be feasible, right? You might need to just get their information and then, you know, call them back at your earliest possible convenience. But I would highly recommend getting in touch with them if they're interested, if they're motivated, as soon as possible, because, like, we're all on this call because we're all interested in lead gen, right? There's competition. There's a lot of people, especially now that the market is hot, who are doing marketing. So if they're motivated, if they're a good lead who's willing to sell for a good price, if you don't get on it, somebody else is gonna.
Yeah. And right now there's too many New Yorkers coming in.
Right.
Too many New Yorkers coming in and just buying everything at such a ridiculous price.
Yep. Yeah, especially where I am in North Jersey, in Essex County. It's crazy.
Though it's everywhere, because there was one lady that was trying to buy a farm for $1 million and couldn't even find it. So
really, they're even coming down here, down central.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, they're coming down this way.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I guess they bought it all over there. But
Yeah.
you had a question. Andrea wanted to know, do you text, mail, and call the same person?
So do you text them and do you call them?
So, you know, in short, yes. You know, we do, because, you know, especially texting and cold calling, because, you know, the expensive part is skip tracing them. You got to remember that. So like, you get a list, you know, whether you pull it off a list source, whether you pull it off the tax records, I don't care where you get it. You need the people's phone numbers. So you got to skip trace them. And, you know, we can talk about skip tracing if you guys want to. But, you know, it's basically, you know, these companies that, you know, you give people a list of people's names and their addresses and whatever information you have, and then they give you phone numbers for those people. So you need to get that. And that costs, you know, 10 to 15 cents per person. So, you know, that's the expensive part. But once you have those numbers, you can continuously hit them up. So you can text them, you can cold call them, and to do that is pretty cheap. You know, like I said, you can do a text for, you know, a penny or less. So, you know, you spent that 10, 15 cents on the front end. Now you're going to text them, you're going to call, you know, you're going to cold call them. Now, direct mail is a little bit different because direct mail is very expensive. Direct mail will cost you, on average, 30 to 35 cents a postcard. So you only want to be doing motivated lists. So if you have an equity list, you don't want to do mail because it's going to be a waste of your money, because most of the people are not going to be interested and you're going to spend 30 cents a postcard. So you only want to do a motivated list, like a tax delinquent list or a probate list, or, you know, something where you know these people are going to be motivated. So
Okay.
that's the one caveat, but in short, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Can I
so
ask
what-
a question, or I'll type it in?
sure.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So my question is, we've had a lot of success, and I don't do this anymore in New Jersey.
Mhm.
We basically work out of state, but we had a lot of success with equity, sending letters to find good qualified buyers. And we were then able to sell to the qualified buyers. We did not find a lot of houses to wholesale, but we did find success with that. Have you tried that at all, or you don't?
So
use
you're
it?
you're doing direct mail for buyers.
This is when I very first started. We did
Mhm.
different mailings. When we did the equity mailing, we got a lot of buyers. That's not what our plan was.
When you say buyers, you mean like investors to wholesale deals too?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we do as well. You know, like when we do direct mail or when we do any type of marketing, and if you're wholesaling, this is actually a great piece of advice. So thank you, Andrea. If people are calling you and they sound like they're an investor or they're a cash buyer and they're calling you from your seller marketing, just ask them like, hey, by any chance, like, are you an investor? Are you looking to buy more properties? And if they say yes, that's a bona fide cash buyer, and you know they're legit because they own that property, right? They're not somebody who's never done a deal because they own that property. They probably own it in an LLC. I mean, it's not something that I would recommend to do for the purpose of itself, because you're spending quite a bit of money to do direct mail, and there's, you know, plenty of other ways you could find those people.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, for sure, a lot of the people, if you're doing any kind of marketing, are going to be investors. Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out. Hey, Shamal, who's over here on Facebook. He's saying solid info, Gabe. He says also Belize, because it's the English is the official language over
Yeah.
there. Have we ever
Mhm.
used them?
Belize is a great place to go to buy properties, but Belize is not a company as far as I know.
No,
No,
no.
No, the
For,
country.
for
The
VAs,
country for VAs.
Oh, okay.
for
I
doing your
didn't quite
calling.
finish that whole sentence. I was reading at the same time because he said also hiring in South America. Philippines is good, but he says Belize is another place. I've never thought
Yeah,
about.
you know, generally speaking, the people, you know, speak pretty good English. You
Yeah,
know, that's not the problem. And you know, you want to weed them out, right, to make sure that like they don't have like too thick of an accent. I mean, you know, some of them you can kind of tell, and you know, I'm pretty sure there's places that have them all over the world. You know, there's people that you know, that have these companies that, you know, will seek out people who speak English, who can do it. You know, it's a relatively easy job to do if you speak decent English. I'm sure there's ones in Belize, and I'm sure you know, every country there are. Now, the big thing is going to be like countries where the labor is cheap, because those are going to be the cheaper you know, cold calling centers. I don't know what you know, the cost of living is in Belize, or what, you know, people make, you know, in terms of like a to earn a living in Belize. I
Yeah.
know, you know, generally speaking, the countries that I've done and the countries that most other people done are countries with very low costs of living and very low labor costs, because those are gonna be cheap. So I don't know personally about Belize. I know the Philippines is good. I've heard people doing it in Mexico. I've heard people doing it, a lot of the countries where your stuff is made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thailand, I've heard.
we have some other questions coming in. Let's see. I'm going to unmute Mike. Let me find him. I'll unmute him, and then he can ask you. He's got a couple questions. Okay, mute. Okay, you should be good, Michael.
All right, cool. Hey, great job, Scott, Tabitha. Great job, Gabe. You're giving us a lot of great information. I have a few questions for you. What kind of CRM are you using for your business right now?
Mhm.
Are you using
So-
one? Tell
yes,
us about
of course.
and tell us about how you're using the CRM to automate certain things, and if you've got guys that are actually physically texting people, or this is like in some kind of sequence and follow up, and if you have
Mhm.
a CRM that does that and there's some that have that built in,
Mhm.
or if it's you got your CRM to do this, and you've got this to do this, and you got this to do that, so that because you got a very big successful operation, you got full-time people. I'd love to hear and envision what that looks like by you sharing some of your tips on how you grew it and how you automated and how you got things going on.
Yeah, of course. And we built our own custom CRM off of Podio.
All right, great.
So yeah, it's very, very good. Actually, in 2021, we're actually going to be selling it. We're going to be like allowing other investors to purchase it on a subscription service.
For you,
Like if you've ever heard of like Investor Fuse
heard of them, yeah.
or like that, it'll be like Investor Fuse, but it'll be half the price and it'll be twice as good. So yeah, texting is one of the big things on our service. So we all the texts are done through the CRM. They're not done on an actual phone, of course.
Great. Nice.
And one of the big things that we do is we do what's called canned responses. So you're on the computer and somebody responds to one of the texts. Now, there's only a number of things that they could say, right? There's only maybe 4 to 5 things that they could say. So we have a response already written for the person so that when they say this, you just click the button that says that. So, it's very, very simple. It's even at the point where you can have VAs do it, and you can have, if you have a decent VA, maybe, be the person that actually responds to the text. So it's cheaper than actually that way you don't even have to have full-time American employees, and you can just have it kind of on autopilot, and then you only take the calls who are like very, very seriously motivated sellers. But yeah, no, I mean, if you are doing any sort of serious marketing, you have to have a CRM, because you have to have a way to keep track of your leads, so you can do follow-up and you can keep track of everything. So that's a very good question. Yes, we do have a CRM. It's called DealFlow. It's actually custom built, and it will be available in early 2021 for for other investors to utilize. But whether you're going to use ours or whether you're going to use Investor Fuse or some other kind of software, it's very, very important that you have a CRM, that you're keeping track of all of your seller leads, you're keeping track of all of your transactions, and then that way you can have somewhere where everything is stored. You can do follow-up, and you can basically manage your business.
Thank you. By the way, I hear, and I think I've watched a video demonstration. There's some AI that does those where you don't have to wait for them to and then push a button to give them a canned response. It's actually
right.
responding in live time. They ask the question, "Oh wow, that sounds great. And what about this? Oh wow, is that and it'll just go on for like several different rounds and
right. So yeah, some of the responses on it too are automated.
That's
so you
cool.
don't have to actually do the canned response. It's just
Wow.
like when you first approach someone, this is actually a really good piece of advice as well. This is Gem Alert right here. When you do the texts, you don't want to send the first text, "Hey, do you want to sell hey, are you interested in selling your house?" Because that'll get flagged by the carriers, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, all these places. They have filters in place because there's so many people doing spam texts and what we do, that they basically have filters that will make it so it doesn't even deliver to the person.
So give us a few that we'll get through.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when we're texting somebody, the first thing that we'll say is like, "Hi," like, "Hi, is this Scott?" And then when they say yes, there's an automatic response, because once they respond, there's no more filters. So
Right.
like if I say, hi, is this Scott? They'll say yes. And then there's an automatic response that says, hi, Scott, are you interested in selling your property?
So if
Yeah,
you
the
long
filter-
as you say that, are you selling your property on the second one, you kind of.
Right.
Right, because if they respond, if you get a response from the person and it's a back and forth, there's no more filters.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
that's very good.
Yeah.
Can you tell us who you use for Skip Trace? Because that was a,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I
that was a
gonna
good
get into that.
price that I heard, because I heard some people a lot more than that. So who do you recommend?
So I use a company called SkipRite.
Skip Right, RIGHT?
Yeah.
Or RITE?
It's going to be R-I, like spelled correctly, R-I-G-H-T.
All right.
There's another one that's good called Need to Skip.
And those
but,
guys are about a 10 cents a skip?
Well, I
Now, are
kind
they
of
giving
lied.
free
I kind of
phone
lied.
numbers?
I
Are
kind
they
of lied
giving
to you
email
guys because
addresses?
I kind of lied because it depends on how much volume you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm skip tracing a list of, 100,000 people,
Right.
they're going to give me a cheaper rate. But
Yep.
yeah, it's probably closer to 15 cents if you're doing like a reasonable amount.
And do you, so about 15 cents. Now you're getting emails as well, cell phones or just addresses, or what are you?
They're typically spitting out the cell phone numbers.
No email addresses.
Sometimes, but
Okay.
I mean, even if you had their email address, to be honest with you, it wouldn't really be that helpful because, doing email marketing for new sellers, to be honest with you, the deliverability rate would be
Yeah.
so low that it wouldn't even be worth your time and money.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you. And as I follow up with people, email is usually the lowest on the totem pole that I'm going to hear back.
So Gabe, with the skip tracing,
Mhm.
how many numbers do they provide per person? And do they
So-
provide family members as well?
So it depends. They will usually at least two to four, usually on average, but usually like 2 to 3. Now I've found that usually the first two are the ones that you're going to have the best luck with. But yeah, no, and just so you guys know, they'll typically like provide you like several numbers, and then
Right.
one of them will be the correct number. So you might want to keep that in mind too. And that's another thing, like if you're texting or cold calling, that's why you always want to make sure that if somebody responds to your call or your text, you want to make sure that it's the person that you think it is, because it might be what we would call an invalid. So the first thing you want to make sure when you get a text or an email, or I'm sorry, a text or a call response is this lead valid? Which means, is it the person that I think that it is?
Right. To verify that's the person you initially tried to contact and not
Right,
somebody else.
because it could be a wrong number. That's a good point.
Right. Okay.
So Shamil said something about the emails. He says,
Use Gmails.
yeah, use GMass to send emails. Have you ever used that before?
I've never used GMass. I use Constant Contact for my
Okay.
I've heard
email
it.
blasts to our buyers when we're doing our wholesale deals. Constant Contact is good. I've used MailChimp. MailChimp is pretty good as well. I've used ActiveCampaign. Didn't love ActiveCampaign because they actually make you like verify every single person that you send the email to, like actually like signed up. Like you have to have proof
Ah.
that every person actually like opted into your email. So ActiveCampaign is a tough one, but MailChimp or Constant Contact I've used. I've never used that one.
Yeah, he says it goes out of the Google server.
Mhm.
And it looks like it doesn't look like a
gmass.com.
marketing, but it looks like a personal email.
gmass.co, or is it gmass.com?
Mhm.
Not
No,
.com.
gmass.co. Yeah,
Yeah.
gmass.co.
It is
Yeah,
.co.
email deliverability is
Now.
so complicated.
Yeah,
Email deliverability is just
Easier.
crazy. There's all these filters that the servers will have, and then there's like different filters that different servers have. So like G Suite has certain ones, and then Gmail has other ones, and then Yahoo has other ones.
depends on how
I
you're
forget the
marketing,
names
right?
of them.
It all depends on how you're marketing. Are you doing
Right. It all depends on how you're marketing.
Are
So
you doing text? Are you doing phone calls? There's different ways to market, right?
Yeah.
right.
So-
And like I don't do any email marketing for sellers, just full disclosure. I do email marketing like when we have wholesale deals, like Scott's probably seen a bunch of these emails. So like when we get a deal, we'll email it out to all of our cash buyers. And that's really the only email marketing that I do. So, it goes out to about 4,000 people. And Constant
Yeah.
Contact has worked great for me. We get pretty good email deliverability rates. We get, pretty good click rates on all of our, open rates and click rates on all of our stuff. And it tracks all of that too. So like, it tells you, so like if I send an email out to 5,000 people, like how many of those 5,000 people open the email, and then how many of them actually like click, like if it has links and stuff like that, it'll tell you how many people were clicking the links and stuff and who clicks the links. So then that
That's
way
in
you
the
can follow
CRM,
up with
right?
those people. Yep.
That's why CRM is important, because it helps you track your marketing. It's
Exactly.
very important to be able
Yep.
to track your marketing. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what's going on, and you're just going to be spending more time doing the same thing, not knowing that somebody didn't click on it, or somebody clicked on it, or they responded, or so
Right.
let me ask you, with skip tracing, have you ever hired independent people out of, like, say, Fiverr or Upwork or something like that to?
We've looked into it. We have actually we have 2 full-time VAs that just do like administrative work for us, and both of them we got up off of Upwork, and that is a good one. That's a good thing. If you're doing a decent amount of skip tracing, you can hire like a full-time person that just works hourly to hand skip trace them. I personally don't do it. I find that it's a little bit more accurate to just go with a company that's very good and does it professionally. The people on Upright, you can find a good person. I think it honestly got to a point for us where it's like, if you're doing a little bit, it doesn't make sense to pay the guy. If you're doing a lot, it might make sense to pay the guy. But then when you're doing so much that one guy can't handle it all and you have to hire multiple guys, it's just way more easy and way more convenient to just have a company do it. And then like once you're doing a big amount of volume, you can just, you get the price down a little bit too. So I've never personally done it, but I do know that it's something that people do and that, people do successfully. Another thing I will say about Skip Right is they charge you per hit, not per skip.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows what that means.
I was
There's
gonna
not
say-
not every skip is successful.
Right.
It has like on average, maybe an 85, 90% success rate that if you skip trace somebody, it's going to actually get back information for them.
Okay.
So some skip trace companies, like let's say there's 100 people and 98 of them are successful. The one that charges you per skip is going to charge you for all 100 of them. The ones that charge you per hit is only going to charge you for the 98 that hit. So
Gotcha.
when you factor in the rates, you might want to ask the provider, hey, do you charge per skip or do you charge per hit?
Now, each one of those VAs that you're having do skip tracing, you provided the list for them to skip trace?
Yeah.
Or do
Well,
you?
like I
Yeah,
said,
like
I don't personally have my VAs do skip tracing. I have them do other things, like
Oh,
more like
okay.
along the lines of like administrative work. They do our QuickBooks. They scrub lists. They do a lot of things like that. But they don't. But I know other people that they do, and exactly right. You'd give them a list and they would go skip trace it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're part of your company now, basically.
Right. They're like a 1099.
Yeah, because you hire them for either 20 or 40 hours a week, doing multiple things other than just cold calling or skip tracing. So that makes sense.
Yep.
Now, with your skip tracing, one more question on that. LLCs come up a lot with addresses and properties. How successful? What do you see as the rate on that? How do you even bother with them, or do you just avoid them?
We don't filter them out. There's properties that are owned by investors that we've done deals with. Properties where the investor has done the project and doesn't want to, or land deals. Maybe a developer who has a piece of land and he's not going to build anything on it. We just did a big deal in East Orange yesterday. Actually, it was a developer and he had a 50 by 250 lot in East Orange by the train, and he didn't want to do anything with it, so he sold it to us. And if we filtered out the LLCs, we wouldn't have gotten that deal. So there's
Right.
definitely situations where we've done deals with properties that are owned by LLCs. So I would personally not recommend filtering those out. But it's a good question.
What do you find your success rate on skip tracing them, though? Because some of them, like I've tried to skip trace LLCs myself, and I was like, not too successful to find who the person is you need to contact, right? So
Right.
if you have if you've ever looked at it to see what your ratio is with the LLCs, when you skip trace.
Right. So with the LLCs, what you would probably want to do, geez, I don't know how I would do this if you don't have, if you're just like a one man, if you're just doing it with like a partner or something. But you can actually go onto the Secretary of State's website if you have an LLC and type it in,
Mhm.
and it'll tell you like who the owners of it are.
Okay, so you basically
But-
research who the LLC is itself, and then
Right, and there's other services. I can't think of the name of it, but if you go on Google, I'm sure you'll be able to find them. There's multiple of them, but like I think it's called Open Corporates,
open corporates.
where yeah, they'll like tell you who the owners of LLCs are or who the registered agents are.
Right. Yeah, it's
And,
only
quick
because
little tidbit: if you own an LLC and you don't want like people to be calling you and doing like marketing stuff like what we do, you make like somebody else the registered agent.
let them get bothered. Yeah, I only brought the LLC part up because when you have a list, sometimes when you generate a list, you get LLCs in
You
there.
get, yeah, of course.
And how you're paying the person to skip trace. That's
Mhm.
why I was just asking about it, because if you're paying them by
Yeah.
just a list, every number on it, or
Yeah, it's a good question. I would ask the individual provider that you're using, like, hey, like, do you skip trace LLCs? And just like find out what they say, because they'll probably know better. I know there's ones that do and there's ones that don't. So I think SkipRite does. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I would get on the phone with these people and just make sure that they know what they're doing as well. But just like also ask them, if you have LLCs on your list, like, hey, like what happens when we try to skip trace LLCs? Should I even put those on the list, or is it not even worth it?
right. And then
Question.
with the skip tracing, here's another question that I just thought of. What tool are they using? Like, do you know what tool they're using to do the skip tracing to produce the results?
Oh
You have an
man,
idea,
they
or-
scrub it. They scrub it somehow. Honestly, this isn't my area of expertise.
So you just never, okay. It was just something because I've had people ask me like when you go after that, what tool are they using to provide the resources for the information?
There's
But that's okay.
there's a
That's sure.
few different ones. I mean, I know, like, just on a very, very basic level, like, you basically like take whatever information you have, whether it's like the person's name and their address or whatever it is, and you scrub it against like whatever records there are available,
Right.
and then like it'll spit out a number for them. I don't know exactly how it's done. It's it's some crazy 21st century stuff,
Well, you don't deal with it. You have VAs that handle that. So I was just
Right.
curious.
Fortunately, well, I don't even do that. I just outsource it to a different company. I just say, hey, here's the list. Right. I mean,
Right.
so like, and yeah, you don't have to actually know this stuff, right? If you have a good skip trace company, you just
Right.
have to, right? Like I email them an Excel file and they email it to me back with a bunch of
Right.
phone numbers.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Just emailed it, but I haven't used a company because my list isn't as big as yours. So
Right.
I got to look
Right.
into that though, because I'm trying to make it more streamlined when
Sure.
I'm doing it. Okay, cool. So Giovanni asked, I think I lost it. Hold on a minute. I didn't want to lose his question. He said, has there ever been a time when you marketed to a homeowner again after you wholesaled their home? And is there a way to avoid that?
Oh man. So
Like, I
I
guess
definitely
with this-
have. I definitely have. I don't know about the counties down in Central Jersey, but Essex County is terribly slow with updating their records. So like when somebody, you're laughing, so it's probably the same way down in Middlesex and Somerset County, wherever you guys are marketing. But like, actually, that happened a couple weeks ago, where we did a deal with a guy, and we sent him another postcard because we pulled a list from Essex County, and he was still on the list as the owner of that property. And we literally closed on the deal in December, and we sent out the deal so it literally took them more than 6 months to update their records. So,
Right,
we
back in.
purposefully don't. And to be honest with you, now that you mention it, we probably should have some process, some step in our system that filters out all those people that you've actually done deals with. But, unfortunately, I don't know if it's just a Jersey thing or, what it is, but these municipalities and these counties just take so long to update their records that, yeah, you are going to actually end up marketing to people who've already sold, and people who maybe even who you've done a deal with. Yeah, it's happened to me.
Yeah, I think it's happened to
Yeah.
us where we marketed to people multiple times, not realizing it the second time. that we marketed to them again. It's
Mhm.
something you might want to add to your CRM.
Yeah, no, that's smart.
know.
Yeah, and like, look, if you're especially if you're doing texting and cold calling, you are going to want to reach out to people multiple times
Yeah.
because, I think I said this earlier, like getting the deal is all about timing. There's a little bit of luck that's put into it, right? Because you want to be contacting them right when they're thinking like, shit, I got to sell this property. I got to get rid of this thing, like this thing is weighing down on my life. It's weighing down on my finances. It needs all these repairs, whatever's going through their head, right? They're thinking it, and then somebody's sending them a mailer or somebody's sending them a call or a text, and they're like, oh yeah, I actually am trying to sell the property. So like, that's why with the texting and the cold calling, it's great because you can text, like once you skip trace the list, you can text them once a month, you can call them once a month, and hopefully you get them when they're ready to sell. So, I mean, you do want to be contacting them multiple times, but in terms of like properties that are already sold, yeah, it's something that's going to happen. And, with the ones that are the deals that you've done, it's going to be so few, like let's say you pull a list and, it's thousands and thousands of people and maybe you've done 2 deals. Like, yeah, you're going to filter out those 2 people, but it's not going to be enough of a difference to really like statistically significantly, make your marketing that more efficient. But yeah, no, it's a good thought.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just something to have so you don't hit them again and annoy them. Because
Yeah.
they're like, what's wrong with you? We just did a deal a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Michael says something about PropStream accounts for that.
Mhm.
And he said it happens nationwide. So it's not just here.
Okay.
So there's lazy workers all over the nation.
Especially now, taking,
Yeah.
They're not as lazy as they are in Jersey.
no.
They're the laziest, even though they get paid the most.
Yeah. Well, at least we get taxables to pay.
Why
Right?
I guess that's why we're one of the most hated states.
Yeah, we're the most
Yeah.
hated state in the country. If everybody didn't see that report that came out this week,
It's just
we're the most hated state in the country.
Voted by its residents.
but they have to take into account that most of the residents here are from New York. That's why we're hated.
That's why New York dropped to number
The
11. or
ones
something.
laughing, no, they're born and bred here in Jersey.
So, okay, Michael, you got any more questions or you good?
I don't want to pry into his some of his inner workings of his business. I mean, do you really do 150 skip traces a month? That's a
Oh
lot.
my God.
150
Or is
skip
that a year?
traces isn't very much at all.
That's nothing.
Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, we get a
150 is
lot
not
of
a
deals
lot.
from him. So
150,000.
I can
Oh,
scroll
no. So like I'll do a lot at one time, but that'll be like for several
Couple.
months.
Right.
But could it be?
Like for
150,000?
example, like we actually
few
just
months?
expanded. We're not only in New Jersey, we're in several markets across the country.
I wanted to ask, what markets are you in?
So we're in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, primarily Essex County, like the Newark area. But we also do the surrounding counties because this is kind of our home base, and this is where we kind of are here and we know the best. So we're in North and Central Jersey. We're also in Atlanta, Georgia. That's
Right.
probably our second biggest one. We're also in Tampa, Florida, and we're also in the Raleigh-Durham market in North Carolina. So
Those are
those
good
are our
markets.
those are our
good
markets.
Do you
So
do commercial properties in any of those areas by any chance?
do we do commercial?
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking to buy multifamily there personally, but we don't market to commercial properties, but sometimes like, hey man, I mean, if somebody calls me and they have another property that's commercial property, like, I mean, yeah, we're going to try to do any deal that we can.
Okay. We'll have to
But I
talk.
would not recommend marketing unless you're actually trying to buy them yourself. Like you're looking for like multifamily properties to buy, which in those markets are all great. If you find, a 20 unit, take it and run.
So we
Um,
actually do marketing for multifamilies in Pittsburgh because we also are a turnkey company.
Mhm.
And so we have deals where people are looking for multifamilies, small multifamilies, 15 or less apartments. So if that's something you could look at, Gabe, is if
Yeah.
you're getting in that.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
market.
that's not a market I've looked into yet. But I'm sure Pittsburgh, I've heard actually very good things about it.
Oh, I love Pittsburgh, but I meant in terms of turnkey sales is also a good market.
Turnkey sales, interesting. Yeah, I got some family over by
We
there,
have
so
a-
I'll yeah.
you want, you can talk to me anytime. I'm always
Okay.
happy.
Great. I'll find you on Facebook.
I am on Facebook.
All right, I'll find you.
Are you looking for partners on any of
Keep
these?
tracing.
Do you have a lot of experience with multifamilies?
You're talking to me?
You know, so I don't personally have a ton of experience in larger multifamily. To be honest with you, it's something that I'm looking to expand. Actually in 2021, because like with your wholesaling and your flipping, you know, just the tax burden is just so crazy. You
Absolutely.
know, like because the profit margins are so high, and then if you're flipping, you know, it's getting counted as capital gains. So you need something to be able to like offset all of those, you know, all of those gains. So if you buy multifamily, you're gonna pay a lot less in taxes.
Absolutely.
Long story short, so you know, this year we're it's a little bit too late, and we're already gonna kind of get crushed. But
Right.
you know, next year it's definitely you know, we definitely want to take down some properties, and you know, we've actually already started looking. So yeah, for sure.
I'm
It's
only
never
asking
too late.
to need a partner. I've been doing multifamilies for over 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And I'm always looking to, you know, especially if someone doesn't have a lot of experience, I
Mhm.
always love to, you know, maybe you can reach out to me, we can have a conversation. If nothing else, I'm sure I can give you some great tips and insights.
Yeah, you know, for sure. It's definitely something where we've been like doing networking and trying to find you know, the right places and the right markets. You know, we've definitely done a lot of market research. You know, it's all about finding like the right deal in the right market, and you know, having you know, working with probably somebody like you who has like the connections for property managers in you know, whatever market that you're going to do, because you probably wouldn't want to
Really?
do it here in Jersey.
It's
New Jersey's expensive.
I would do it anywhere,
Yeah.
as long as the return is right.
As long as the return's there.
It's
Yeah.
all the numbers game. I don't care if it's Alaska or Jersey or
Yeah.
whatever.
As long as the numbers make sense and it works, that's the key thing.
Yeah, you know,
just
I mean,
wanna retire.
you want, yeah, I mean, you want to at least be in a market where you see like, you know, decent job data and decent like population growth and income growth. You don't want to buy a 50 unit and then the place turns into a ghost town in 10 years.
You do your due diligence.
Without, you know,
Also-
with that one caveat, I agree.
So
So-
you also want to be in a place that's landlord friendly. I don't know, Michael, where
That's
your
true.
apartments are, but if you gave me a good deal in New York, I promise I'd call you to sell it to you, because I wouldn't buy a rental in New York if you gave me the property.
I don't blame you.
It's a nightmare when you have a bad tenant.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we were primarily looking at
Jersey
like the
isn't much better.
southeast for that, for primarily that reason. In fact, the market that I like the best, that I'll probably buy just any deal if it makes sense there, is Charleston.
Great
This
market.
area,
Add him to the round table.
it's a nice area.
Yeah.
And just Andrea, my take is if it's an unlandlord friendly state, if you're doing things that are like Section 8 and things that are part of that kind of mindset for that kind of political structure, it works.
Well, it works as long as the government is still producing money to pay you. I have to tell you, with the market now, I would be afraid of that. But that being said, I own
Hey, they'll
Section
print.
8. It works great, but I still won't go into New York and New Jersey, not so much.
So I seen Mark H posted that he's doing buy and hold and single family and multifamily residential in Central Jersey, Mercer, Hamilton Township.
Great.
If anybody's interested, please feel free to reach out to him or text him. It's in the chat. He's 732-779-4369. Or if you have any wholesaler contacts you can share that would fit, please send. So Gabe, you might want to add him.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, the farthest south we do anything, Mark, is Middlesex County. I don't really do Mercer. It's funny, I'm from Mercer County. I grew up in Union Township, but we don't do any
I know other
marketing there.
people that do, so
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna take down your number. I'll shoot you a text after this. I'm actually gonna take a picture of your comment right here.
there you go.
Yeah,
And,
you never know. If you always ask that one question, do you have anything else?
Yep.
And we have come across where the person had 7 other properties in Jamaica. There was one in Arizona,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
it
I
happens.
asked the question, and it
That's-
works.
Yeah, So
That's a good piece of advice too. Always ask them if you like make them an offer on a property or like they're not interested in the property you sent them a card about. Always say even somebody that you're doing a deal with, hey, do you have any other properties? Because
Yep.
they might.
Yep.
So
They
when
just
you
might.
to get back to topic, because we got off task there for a little bit.
Yeah.
When you get somebody that is motivated
Mhm.
that you're speaking with, how is it like? What do you do to close the deal on them and get them to have you lock the property up and not go
Well,
with somebody else?
you know,
Do you give them $1 or $10, or do you offer them something, or?
I mean, obviously you're gonna want to make them an offer.
Okay.
For us, it's just, seeing if they're interested, and then, if they're interested and they want to keep having the conversation with you, you certainly want to gather, a lot of information, as much information as you possibly can about the property. And, we have the key things that our guys need to get from us so that our underwriters can determine how much we can pay for the property, right? Because they might be motivated, but if they're not willing to take your price or a price that works for you or for an investor, then, you might as well just refer them to a realtor or something. So, obviously you want to talk to them. You want to find out a little bit about the property. Ideally, you want to find out how much they're looking to get for it. Some people will tell you, some people will they won't. They'll say like, hey, I'm not going to give you a number. Just tell me how much you're willing to pay. But yeah, if they want to get everybody that wants an offer gets one. That's one of our company mottos. So, if they want an offer, you need to give them an offer. And, if it's something that they agree upon, you have to send them a contract. We're in New Jersey, so a lot of them are going to want to have an attorney review it. If they get through that attorney review, they'll probably want to make some changes to your contract. Hopefully, it's nothing crazy. They don't want you to put down a 10% deposit or something crazy like that. But I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother topic, right? Underwriting the deal, figuring out how much you can offer the seller. Your process just in terms of like with contracts and sellers attorneys and escrow and title companies. And, that's a whole nother side of your business.
Yeah. And that was one thing I was going to ask you with COVID and the way people are. Have you been doing a lot of virtual tours through people's phones? Have you been going to their properties?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we're a completely virtual company now. It's not like, when we used to meet at the property and, all come for a showing at the same time, that's not really ethical anymore when you think about it. So, for us, we have a set of questions that we ask the owner that pretty much determines how much you can offer for the property, right? We kind of just ask them, I think it's about 15 questions.
Okay.
Obviously you need to know just like the general specs on the property. Of course, that's non-negotiable, right? You need to know how many bedrooms and bathrooms and, the type of heat the house has, if there's an oil tank, just basic stuff like that. But then, we ask them, just things that will dive into the, more stuff about the property, right? Like, hey, when was the last time you had any work done to the roof? If they say, oh God, I can't remember,
then it probably needs a new roof.
it probably needs some sort of roof work, right? And a lot of stuff you can find on, the exterior, you can look at it on Google. I know you can't see inside, but, sometimes we have people who are willing to send us pictures of the inside, like, hey, send me a picture of every room in the house and you can email it to me. That people are sometimes willing to do. We ask them about the age of the utilities, like, hey, like when was the last time you had the water heater replaced?
Right.
Stuff like that. Hey, like when were the kitchens and the bathrooms remodeled? Do you know? Usually if you're buying a property like an investment, they'll need new kitchens and bathrooms. That's the least of the things they'll need.
Yeah.
But
Good.
we'll ask them, so we'll know, like what kind of floors, like, hey, like is it hardwood floors? Do you have laminate down there? If it's laminate, they're going to need replaced, right? I mean, even if it's a well-maintained property, laminate floors only last a couple of years. So, if it's hardwood, you'll just know that you probably have to restain and refinish the hardwood. We'll ask them, is it plaster walls or is it dry? Is it sheetrock?
They say, I don't know. What do you do?
Look at the age of the house.
Yeah, we look at the age of the house and just like look at it.
Do you get pictures?
Most people know if you own a property. At least from my experience, they'll know. Obviously, there's some people who don't know anything about anything, and
Uh-huh.
whatever.
we-
But generally speaking, like if you ask them enough of those questions, you'll have a pretty good idea. And when we're wholesaling, it's a little bit different from you guys who are actually flipping the properties. I'm not trying to get an exact figure on what the scope of
Right.
work is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out like, hey, is this like a full gut job? Is this
Right.
like some lipstick work? Is this like something in the middle? So that's how we're doing it for most of our deals. And like for me, like personally, like just so like my business model is like, we wholesale most of the deals, and then like when we find one that's like a really good deal, we'll flip it. So I'm not really like too concerned with being like, oh, is the repairs 60 or 70 or 80? I just know like, is it around that 60 to 80 general range? So,
Gotcha.
it's not a perfect science. I mean, of course, it's never going to be in this business, but that's how we do things. We do things to the best of our ability, and the same problem that you're having, like everybody else is having that problem too. So
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you what you're doing, because I know some people are doing, some people I've talked to said they get them to show them pictures or videos, like walk through the house with their cell phone on to show them what the house looks like. I don't know. how effective
and like
it
I
is,
said, like we'll when we're getting on the phone with people, like if well, sometimes we'll ask them, but a lot of these people are older.
Yeah.
They might not know how to use FaceTime, or they may not, know how to do all that stuff. One thing that we have done, I don't know if Scott or any of the other guys have like seen any of our like recent like marketing emails, but we get like Matterport virtual tours of all the properties that we do.
Mhm.
So like we just sent out an email for a property that we're wholesaling in Irvington. And if you go to the marketing email, you can actually look at the Matterport virtual tour, and you can walk through the whole house,
Right.
virtually. I don't know if all you guys are like
See that
familiar
one?
with the
No.
Matterport technology.
I didn't see that yet.
I
No,
feel left out. I didn't see it either. I
Yeah,
get
so
everything else.
I see the text, and
Yeah.
sometimes I catch the emails later on. I look
Right.
at that
So
before.
like I'll send you a link to one of them. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like realtors usually use them on some of their listings, especially now with COVID. Like the 3D virtual tours where it's like,
Right.
you can walk through the whole house, and it's three-dimensional, and you can see everything, and you can go full 360.
You
Right.
can actually go onto the Central New Jersey Real Estate Investment Group, go on there. There are a lot of the realtors that are putting up virtual tours up there. So
Right.
you can put yours up there
Yeah, you
also
can put
for
yours up
us
there,
to
Gabe.
see,
You're
you
Yeah.
know, and wholesale them out through there. A lot of people are looking for them on there.
Yeah. We do actually like that's a Facebook group, right?
Yes.
it's a Facebook or Facebook.
Yeah, we post them in all the groups. I actually have one that I could post for you guys that
Yeah.
we just locked up in New Brunswick, and we actually have another one in Westfield.
What do you
But,
have in New Brunswick? Wait, before you post that. What do you have in New Brunswick?
So it's going to be a single family. It's going to be a single family rental. It's a Section 8 tenant.
Okay.
It's
Send me
not.
the
It's
address.
I can send you the address.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll text it to Scott.
Fine. Use your phone.
I'll text it to you. But it's you'll buy it with it's a good deal in some ways. It's you'll buy it with a little bit of equity, and it's in an area of New Brunswick. It's actually right by my office. It's getting a lot better. It's on Hale Street, so it's right between Livingston Ave and Joyce Kilmer Ave. I don't know how familiar you are with like the streets and the neighborhoods in New Brunswick, but it's a neighborhood that's certainly gotten a lot better. It's a neighborhood that's kind of in transition from being, just a community of just people who have lived in New Brunswick, the mostly, immigrants and Latino population, to just turning into kind of student rentals. So
Yes.
I think, and right now it's a Section 8 tenant. So it's just, you're going to buy it, you're going to have some instant cash flow. The taxes on it are only like $4,000. It's a small house. It's 2 beds and 1.5 baths. So, it's a smaller house. The taxes are low. You'll have, guaranteed cash flow from Section 8. But, as a long-term play in an area like that, you're getting, increased demand. And, obviously we'll see what happens with COVID, but, over the past years, you've just seen, increasing demand in all these college towns.
Yeah.
You know, for student rentals, it, you know, might not be a bad play long term. And you'll buy it with, you know, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's not an insane discount. You're not buying it at 65% of the equity, but you know, you'll have a little bit of equity, you know, probably, you know, you'll probably buy it with 20% equity at the price that we're asking for it. And, you know, it's a good little Section 8 rental. You know, you don't have to worry about collecting the rent every month, and it's an up and coming area. So, you know, maybe that's something that you guys would be interested in. I'll you know, I'll send that out to you guys. We'll probably email it out to everybody tomorrow. And if any of you guys do want to get on our email list, just, you know, get in contact with me somehow.
But if you put your
If you
contact.
put your
info
email,
in the
I need, I need, if you want to get on my list, I need everybody's email and their best contact number. Cause we
Yep.
do emails, but to be honest with you, like no matter what type of email that you do, the deliverability doesn't always work. You know, sometimes like you won't get it. So that's why we always just do like a text to like, hey, just sent you an email.
All right, what I'll do is,
Well, I know somebody up at the beginning asked, can you put your information down there, how to contact you?
Oh yeah. You know what? Actually, let me do this.
yeah,
I'm
put
going
it in the chat.
to post my website link
Yep.
right here, njoffmarketproperties.com. And you can actually sign up to be on my list on that link.
There you
I
go.
There
just
you go.
posted it in the group.
Then you
So
can
if
look
you
for
just
my
if you just copy paste that link into your browser, you can go to my website and you can anybody that wants, like I encourage all of you to do it if you're interested. You can sign up to be on our list. You'll get you know, email updates and text updates of all of our deals.
Cause I was gonna say, you might wanna type it on there.
Oh, you
Yeah,
want
if
me
there's
to put
something
it on
easier, I could,
Facebook
you know,
Okay,
NJ.
you're getting put onto Facebook. I'm putting it up there too.
sweet.
So you owe me a good deal.
And like we said, if you want, you go to, because I don't think I've seen your deals on our Facebook group page. So if you go to our
Yeah.
Facebook group page, Gabe, you could put
Yeah.
your deals up there
Okay.
as well.
Even the ones that are up north, or just the ones like your
Yeah.
Yes,
counties?
Yeah, all over.
anything you
All of them?
have.
Yeah,
Because there's it's a growing page, it's constantly growing, so
Okay.
there's more and more people always jumping
Yeah.
on there.
there's
and
over 2,100 people and they're from nationwide.
They're
Oh,
I
nationwide,
have people from everywhere on there.
mostly
Nice.
mostly central North Jersey, but they're from all over
Yeah.
really.
Sweet.
And there's all kinds of services up there too. If you're looking for a service, you could, I don't know if you do that when you're looking for something on a deal
Mhm.
yourself, if you need,
Yeah,
Help
hard
with
money
something.
lenders, if you need the different, everything's up there. that
Yeah,
you
I might actually contact that debris
Okay.
removal service, because we have a deal right now and it's like a
Oh.
hoarder house.
yeah, they'll come in and they'll just clean it
Yeah.
out for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get it before the 8th, because then they're like packed. They're packed after the 8th.
Well, at least for that week, the next two, right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Oh,
everybody,
really?
everything out for Thanksgiving, so they get like bombarded. So close it quick.
All you gotta do is you reach out to them. If not, hit me up. I'll send you their info and then
Okay.
they'll come out. They'll give you a similar, hey, show me pictures if you got them. If not, then, they'll give you an estimate.
Yeah. This one's like top to bottom. I mean, like you can't even walk in the front door.
They've done it
Yeah, many times.
many times.
Love properties like that.
Oh yeah, I love them. You never know what
Oh,
you're gonna
money.
find. I almost want to go through it myself and see if there's any gems in there.
Yeah, you
We're
never
gonna
know.
tell you, when you get those kind of properties, do go through it.
Yes.
Make sure
Yeah.
you take out what you don't want, because once they get there, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah.
So, all
Any
right, you're up on
questions?
Facebook? Nope,
Okay,
no more
no
questions.
more questions there.
Nope, we're good. Just a
Okay.
whole bunch of stuff. I told you all the stuff from Shamel and Michael. Michael runs a networking event, nationwide virtual meetup thing. So
Yeah, west
it's
to
up on
east.
Facebook.
West to east, VM.com.
It's the third Monday of the month. So
anybody
everybody's
wants to join it.
bored on Mondays.
Yeah, we
Let's
used to
do
have, that's why we
ours.
had the networking event on Mondays.
Yeah, that was
Because
Yeah.
there's not usually a lot going on.
So-
But, okay,
But Gabe, you have given us great information. We're 15 minutes
Oh, it's
past
my
our
pleasure.
due time.
Yep.
But we can continue if you want. That's fine with me. I
We always
like
go
info.
over.
I have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
No, go for it. That's what we're here for.
sourcing an eviction list.
Mhm.
You think is it worth the effort and time doing this eviction moratorium?
You know, I haven't been able to get a hold of New Jersey eviction lists.
No.
I've reached out to the counties, I've reached out to municipalities, I've reached out to the courts. I've probably contacted every clerk in Essex County. I just haven't been able to do it. I don't know how. I don't know if there's anybody who does. But you know, with the eviction moratoriums, you know, it's interesting because we get a lot of deals of people who have tenants that are crappy tenants that aren't paying. And you know, you got to factor that into the price because it's a cost of doing business.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you know, just like if you have people, you know, like from just my experience, like if you're doing other lists that are for landlords, you know, like an absentee equity or you know, something like that, just an equity list if it's in an area where there's a lot of rental properties, which, you know, for me, I get lots of rental properties because I'm mostly in Newark. So, you know, it's mostly landlords. Now, if they're in a situation where they have a tenant that's not paying and it's, you know, it's putting them in a situation of distress, if you're just doing other lists where you're going to be getting in touch with those people anyway, they'll probably, you know, you'll be reaching them and they should be getting in touch with you. That's just my opinion. So like if you're doing an absentee equity list and, you know, there's a guy on the list who you're contacting because he has enough equity and he you know, it's not an owner occupied property and he has a tenant that's not paying and you're trying to get in touch with that guy because he'll sell it to you for cheap because he can't deal with the tenant, you know, you'll get him from your owner occupied equity campaign.
Okay, great. Thank you for that advice.
I don't know if you saw it, but Giovanna asked, how do you recommend finding the hot zip
Hot
codes
zip
to market
codes.
in?
So this goes back to what your goal is for your marketing,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, if you are flipping, obviously you're going to want to look at zip codes and areas where you're going to want to be doing flips. So, and that depends on your strategy. You know, what type of flips you want, what, you know, how much experience you have, you know, what you're trying to do. Because if you're actually buying the properties or you're actually, you know, being the landlord of whatever you're buying, you know, you're probably going to be a lot more specific with your criteria of what you want. If you are wholesaling, you're going to want to go where the distressed inventory is. So, you know, those are typically the C and D class neighborhoods.
Yeah, you're not going to go into an A property neighborhood unless you're going after a specific target audience. For instance, maybe probates. Maybe
Right. Well, the other
tenants.
thing too is like if you're flipping, you're not looking for as many deals, right? Like if I'm doing a campaign and I'm looking for flips, maybe if I find 3 deals, that's great. I'm going to make, you know, 60, 70, $80,000 per deal. And I'm going to do 3 of those deals and I'm going to make a ton of money. But if you're wholesaling and you're making, you know, 15 grand on a deal, you need to do a lot more deals to make the amount of money that you want to make. So you got to be in places, like I said, where there's a lot of distressed inventory. And, you know, those are going to be the C and D class neighborhoods, right? That's going to be Irvington and Newark and East Orange. And, you know, if you're down in central Jersey, Plainfield would probably be a good place.
Yep.
Perth Amboy might not be a bad place. New Brunswick might not be a bad place. I mean, you kind of know the areas that I'm talking about probably just from me naming those kinds of areas.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, again, like you said, are you wholesaling or are you rehabbing? You know, and that's going to determine where you're looking for your leads. Like, I'm not necessarily as a rehabber going to go look in Plainfield unless I flip in Plainfield.
Mhm.
You know, I'm going to look into areas like Edison, and if I flip in New Brunswick, and if I flip in East Brunswick, say, or North Brunswick, then I'm going to look there. But again, I guess you would call them, they're more the urban areas like Newark and New Brunswick and Plainfield. You're going to have everything there, like the evictions and the tired landlords and the foreclosures and the gamut of everything going on, and a lot more of it because there's more housing there, you know, so that would make more sense. And again, it depends on what you're doing.
I think with the zip codes, I think your best is to start, like you says, in your backyard. You do like the one area, you know, right? That's where your office is at. So that's where you do all your marketing for now.
Right. Well, I mean, actually, not really for us at this point because we're all virtual.
Yeah.
You know, we have an office that's in New Brunswick and we do marketing, you know, like I said, we do it all over Essex County and the surrounding areas. We do it all over Atlanta and North Carolina and Tampa. But yeah, I mean, especially if you're flipping, you're going to want to do it in areas where you're familiar with, because otherwise, you know, you could be looking at a deal and you don't know the area and you end up making a huge mistake because, you know, that street is close to, you know, something that, you know, God forbid nobody wants to buy because of, you know, some local thing that you don't know about. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you're rehabbing, you gotta know where you gotta know the area. It's just, It is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Because you don't want a D area. That's for sure.
Unless that's what you're doing.
War zones, more power to you.
Some people like that. Does anybody else have a question,
Any other questions?
or, you know, are they looking for help in any way? Are they looking, you already have Gabe's information to become a member of his lists,
We
on
put
his
you
list?
up on Facebook to get to the lists and all that. You're up here on Facebook also.
Nice.
So everybody said thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you guys. It was fun.
Information.
It was a blast. It
you.
was nice meeting all you guys. And my name on Facebook is not, if you guys want to like send me a friend request or something, it's not Gabe Palel. My full name is Gabriel.
Gabriel.
If you want to find me, that will be my Facebook name, Gabriel Palel. Yep.
Okie dokie.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
not so many
Scott.
people with your last name.
Yeah, because right here you can I am ya
Yes.
if need.
Okay, well,
Right.
I think we'll let, unless anybody else has a question, anybody on
Nope.
Facebook? I don't think so. Nobody
No.
there. I think we'll call it a night. We'll wrap it up. Appreciate Gabe coming on. It was a last minute call that I had with him yesterday to get him to
Yeah.
jump. I love when we get to do it in person. I'd love you to come back when we have it in person.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
live that way.
Yeah.
This way we could sit down and do it that way when we'll have more people in the room. And at that point, we'll still have people online. So
Trust me, when we can go back to normal and have like events, I will be at every single one because I
I
miss it.
hear you. I think everybody's tired of just being stuck at home
Yeah.
and not.
So,
interacting
so do you want
or-
to travel to Pittsburgh? We have our first live event next month.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm really excited about it.
Hey, I have a live
Wait a
event
minute.
every Thursday. So
Larry
don't
has live
cry.
events every
Yeah,
Thursday.
Larry's
Yes,
got
he-
got-
with 40 to 50 people, shoulder
Yeah.
to shoulder.
Where about?
Here's what I think about Governor Wolf and Governor Murphy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Don't say it.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
No, Larry,
Thank
Larry
you.
does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, guys. Have a good night.
Hi, guys.